Okay, everybody. So I don't know how to feel. Okay, don't look at my toes, please. Let me cover them up. As you can tell, I'm in a different area, a different environment. I don't know how to feel. First of all, let me tell you, it's 1:00 in the morning. It's 1:00 in the morning and I'm up trying to be quiet so nobody can hear me. But I just was like, I need to make a podcast episode because a lot has changed. And the title of this is going to resonate so much because it's a beautiful thing to be able to step back and recognize all of the accomplishments and all the mistakes I made. I can step back and look at it in totality and be like, I did that. And that was who I was. And this is who I am right now. I'm going to tell a little story too. When I was in South Korea, right, they had the barbershops, right? And they was cutting the hair. I had one person I went to every single time and he did a good job. But when I'm telling you, they're more of like a cater to beauty salons. They like brush and comb and they don't really let the haircut really go in your skin, like really deep down. And when I came back here, I was like, oh, I cannot wait. And when I was in that chair, I was getting my hair cut. I was like, whoo, I remember it feeling like this. I'm talking about, it was like all over my, my head and stuff. But I just felt like I needed to tell that story. It's totally different. Okay. In places, they don't do the same things and they don't be going the same and everything. But I digress. Let me get into the podcast. I like this environment. I always wanted to go for a more positive, more not professional. Yes, I want professionalism, but more so comfortability too. And just relaxing, just relaxing and just being able to just chill at the same time we're doing this podcast. Because now it feels more comfortable. I can lean back a little bit. I can just talk and just chill. But yeah, I'm liking this setup. I like this setup. But anyway, welcome back to NTheRealestWay Podcast by Marqes Smith, where we talk about so many topics in the realest way. On this podcast episode titled, I'm Different, we're going to look back at the past and also move forward with our future. I was in South Korea, and before I left, I was talking to Travis, somebody who was on my podcast numerous times before, and I was like, I don't really know how to feel. There were moments when I was excited. I was like, oh, yes. Oh, you see him? Look at my baby. I've had this squirrel. Is this a squirrel? Look at the tail. This is a squirrel, right? It got a white belly. Do squirrels have white bellies? Or is it some other animal? I don't even know. Anyway, I've had this for years. I remember playing with this as a child. And I was like, oh, this is why we need this. This is why we needed this. This is a sign of the past, okay? It's a good omen. I got so much to talk about. What was I saying? Oh, in South Korea, I was talking to Travis before I left. He took me to the airport and we were discussing how all the change that I had while I was in South Korea, it was a lot. And I had to undergo a lot of things. And I didn't want to lose any of that. I didn't want all of the work I did and all of the growing and forgiving myself and forgiving other people to just go away. And that's what I was worried about. And I guess maybe that's why I had such mixed feelings about it all. Because I didn't know if I was going to revert back to an old version of myself, or was there a future me out there just waiting to be, released into the world. I was worried about that. And he was like, I understand what you're saying. I've thought about that too. That's been something that is in my mind as well. Finding yourself in a place where you're somewhat isolated. And you can say, how were you isolated, Smith? Well, I was isolated because I didn't have anybody in the beginning that I truly knew. I had people that I knew of, but I was so closed off before. And then I was thrown into an environment to where I was like, okay, now you have to swim. You have no choice but to swim now. And I had to learn how to do that. So I grew a lot. I understood that the things that I did before, they weren't okay. And I hurted people. And that's really what set me on the path of changing myself. I didn't want to be a reason why other people got hurt. And through all of that development and growth and change, I finally was able to live truthfully as myself. I wasn't worried about society anymore. The people around me, whether they supported me or not, I was living in my truth. It was a new environment where I got to declare who I was. Nobody was in the past telling me, and this is the thing with family, right? And some people, they're able to adjust and see you as the new version of who you are. But a lot of people, they're going to continue to see you as the person that you were years ago as a child. They don't even know how much you've grown. They don't know how much you've changed, but they see you as forever that thing. And no matter what you do, you're going to always be that person to them. That was something that I was worried about as well. It was something that was constantly in my mind of like, okay, because I seen somebody talking about it and it was like, well, your family's going to always see you as they did before. They don't expect you to change. And they think that your family thinks that they know everything about you. But that is far from the truth. I went through so much growth. Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm looking back at it and reminiscing because of how proud of myself I am. Like, I'm so proud of myself. But what I went through, in the moments I was not happy. I was uncomfortable. I was under pressure. I mean, I was resisting everybody who came close to me. I'm attacking them. I'm cussing them out. I'm yelling. I'm screaming. Now, you might hear me yelling and screaming, but I promise you it's not because I'm cussing nobody out no more. It took so much energy out of me. And when I went back into my empty room, I was left feeling even more empty. And I didn't want to feel that way. So I changed for myself, for other people. And that's what happened. Then I came back to America. At first, I felt like I was in a whole nother place. Like everything that I was before was different. I didn't even remember like how it looked, if that makes sense. For so long, it felt like a distant memory. I looked back at high school and I was like, this is a distant memory. I don't even really remember. Was this really me? Or was there just a TV show I watched, and then it's like in the back of my mind, like, oh, did that really happen? It was a distant memory. So I just had to get adjusted to the reality that I am in now. It's different, but the same. I'm different, but it's the same. And I came back home and I was around the same people that I was around when I was here before I went to South Korea. And I found myself triggered a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. I mean, everything that I thought I knew, everything I thought I was healed from. Oh, I was done with it. Oh, I already healed. What are you talking about? Oh, I'm going to come back and I'm going to just be, perfect. But that's not the case. And I slowly realized that you can say healing is not linear, right? Everybody can talk about it. We can sit here and talk about healing all day, right? Healing is going to take time and healing is not linear. And regardless if you think that you healed, you may have not healed from this. And there's always a conversation about what you can do and what you shouldn't do. And all of the conversations that we have revolving mental health and healing, we can always talk about it. But when it comes to implementing it, when I was back here, I was still overstimulated, angry, and I had so many responses. And I was like, I healed from this. Why is it still bothering me? Maybe the issue before wasn't just you. And I mean, I was a problem before. 100%. I take full accountability of everything and who I was before. But sometimes you got to realize that you may have not been the problem. Maybe it was the environment. And then there's a question of, do I allow myself to stay the way that people are looking at me as and the way that they're staying as? Do I leave that situation, or do I choose to take these people in as many bites as I can? You know how you may eat something, but you may choose to eat it in a way to where you're still having some kind of control. You control how much you intake of these people. And I was asking myself that because a lot of the things that we go through in our families, especially when it gets political, sometimes I want to take a step back. The arguing and stuff, the negativity, I can, what, I'll see you another day when, I ain't got to be around this right now. But when it comes to a mindset, that is something that really concerns me. I don't want to associate myself with anybody. If it's a family member, if it's not a family member, it really doesn't matter. I don't want to associate myself with somebody who doesn't really care about humanity, and they let their beliefs dictate everything else. I mean, your faith overrules everything else. And that's not okay. I was watching this old TV show on YouTube, Give Me a Break. I recommend you watch it. It's educational. It taught me a lot about experiences that other people have in their families, and the dynamics and stuff like that, and the conversations that they had. It was really humorous. It was very funny, but it was also inspiring. And I learned that regardless of how it may seem, you can't just expect everybody to believe what you believe. There was one episode where, I forget her name, but she was at the time the youngest, and she had an imaginary friend, and she was talking to her imaginary friend. She was like, this is my imaginary friend, nobody else plays with me. This is my friend, and nobody can take my friend away from me. This is my friend. I believe in her. Nobody else can see her. This is her imaginary friend. And everybody else is looking at her like she's crazy. Everybody else is like, you're crazy. There's nobody here. Stop acting how you're acting. You're causing chaos. You're the problem. You're the reason why everybody's reacting this way. And she was like, no, she's here. She's literally here with me. This is my friend. And everybody was mad. And then it came to the point to where the cop, the police officer, the one who really, he is the one where it revolves around the change. He's the pinnacle of the resistance most of the time in the earlier seasons of where he's the one who's set in his ways. And he was talking about how your imaginary friend isn't real. And then she said, how is that any different than your religion, your God? You can sit here all day and tell me that your religion is real and that the God you believe in is real. Now me, I won't sit here and say, well, you're lying and you're wrong. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. I would never say that. Am I going to change the way I believe just because you believe that? No, nor should you. As we go through our life, we need to have a balance of what we believe and what we should believe in. There's the moments when I was set in my ways too, of that cognitive dissonance, allowing our critical thinking to be shut down because of faith. We cannot let that happen. The whole world, humanity will never believe the exact same things as you. So why are you forcing it? Why is this even a conversation? It's so exhausting to step outside of a space where you're supposed to be at home. But to think about it in your own house is crazy. To think about it in your own house is crazy. The people that you say that you care about. We're having a conversation about this, or not even a conversation. We're spreading it on the internet, on social media. spreading false information. Now, you can believe whatever you want to. You have the right. But let's not allow those feelings to control everything else that everybody else believes in. We cannot allow that to happen. Understand that. We have to be okay with people not believing what we believe in. We have to. But we've seen it time and time again. We've seen it all over history. The battles and the wars of people deciding that, you know what I believe in is more important, and there was war. And regardless of whatever side, one superseded and one set the precedent. But regardless, there will always be a conflict of what should we believe in right now? Who, you know what I'm saying? And it's, I understand there's always going to be conflict, but we don't have to allow it to affect us on a level that deserves a physical and mental negative response. Okay? It should never get to that point. It should never get to that point. So when I was worried in South Korea and I came here, and it was the truth, and I was very much triggered when I came back. I had to look at myself first. I was so tired of pointing the finger at everybody else from the chaos and the misery that's in my life. Let me point the finger at what's going on with me. You know? And like I said before, I did the healing. I did the work. You're able to care about people. You're able to love people and have respect for them at the level of what you want. And I'm not talking about the respect part, but I'm talking about the level of intake. You should respect people, right? Regardless. Just for being a human being, right? Respect them for being a human being is non-negotiable. I'm talking about when we get into the conversation of what we believe in and everything else, we need to stop that. We need to eradicate that. And be okay with the level of intake that you are comfortable with at all. You know, you may be eating some spicy food and you're like, I can't eat it at all. That's fine. That is the choice that you live with. This is your life. Nobody else is going to have to deal with those stomach problems, okay? From eating that spicy food. No matter what they say, oh, it's so good. Everybody else is doing it, right? Everybody else is eating this spicy food. So you might as well eat it too. But it makes my stomach hurt. I'm not happy. So what are you going to continue to do? Put yourself in environments of where you're unhappy? Or are you going to, you know what? I can't eat that spicy food. I may have to remove myself. Or you know what? I can stay over here with y'all, but I'm going to have to eat something with, the level of spiciness has been, diminished, either a little bit or completely. But regardless, it's your choice. This is our life. We look so much at everybody else and what they're doing. I was quite happy when I got my first responsive negative comment. I got, negative comments before on my social media all the time. And the first one really shook me. I talked about it before. I was like, oh my goodness, I got my first negative comment. And I didn't know how to act or react first, but it hurt me, especially because it was something of, racial, it was somebody being racist, but I didn't know how to act first. And then I was like, you know what? I got this. And now when I'm presented the opportunity of a negative comment, especially one that, they're looking for a response, I take on the opportunity to educate myself and to educate them. I made a reel on social media and I posted it, and I was talking about how the mindset that we have regarding the gym and working out in holistic health is a problem. If you're going to the gym just so you will not become fat, that is fat phobia, and you have an ignorance to the truth. Everybody who's considered overweight is not unhealthy, okay? There are people who are overweight who are really healthy. That's the truth. That's facts. I'm not making that up. There has been scientific proof to support my claim. I'm not lying, okay? And I was letting people know that society has set a lot of the things that we believe in, the norms that we believe in, society has set them up. Like, it's the truth. And to not allow the unhealthy expectations of other people and what they're telling you, and you got to look this way to control your life. You can't. And he was talking, and he was like, I'm considered overweight. He said I'm overweight, and he said more more direct words, but he was like, I'm overweight, my son's not overweight. And he was talking about his perspective and his feelings. Now listen, when we talk about our perspectives, again, when we talk about how the world is different, right? It's okay. Nobody's invalidating your perspective. When I talk about my experiences and what I've learned from just knowledge and facts too, your perspective is always going to be valid. Your experience and how you got to where you got, it will never change. Nobody can take that away from you. Nobody can take that away from you. The lessons I got from South Korea, the pain, the love, the suffering, the joy, nobody can take that away from me. Nobody. Right? Those were my experiences. And no matter how much somebody told me, you know what, Smith? What you did in South Korea, that didn't happen. You was there with me? Oh, okay, girl, where you was at? You was in the club too? But seriously, nobody can take away your perspective. That is your perspective, okay? So when we go into spaces, right, of education, I feel like it's something that takes time. So I wouldn't say you always need to have it on. But when there's a place of education, let's try to flip the knob on. Let's realize that this is a space of learning. Let's turn that critical thinking on. Let's not allow that cognitive dissonance to cloud your experiences, because now you're speaking from a place of experience, but it's not just experience. It's trauma. It's anxiety. It's your own emotions clouding the truth. Now, I was speaking about my experiences, but I promise you the balance of factual information and opinions was I'm telling you, it was 100% more to do with the facts than it was my own feelings. I don't like to talk about things in a place of, I'm very passionate about this, right? But if tomorrow I was wrong about my feelings, I would always choose choosing my education and what is the truth, what's the facts, over what my feelings are. My perspective and my experiences will never change. Nobody's taking that away from you. I understand what you went through. I understand how you feel. But your experience isn't everybody else's experience, and you can't make everybody else's experience yours. Okay? And so we had a conversation. We were talking. We didn't get to a conclusion. I was like, hey, I appreciate your perspective. I'm so thankful that you commented on my post, because it not only helps engage, other people, and the algorithm like, somebody's commented on, his post, and now, what? Let's boost him up more. But it also gave me a moment of, what do I do when I'm in front of somebody else who doesn't agree with what I agree with and what I believe in? What do I do? Before I even made podcasts and I did social media, I probably would have looked at this in a place of being offended, because again, I thought my experiences were being under attack. It's my experiences. They're telling me what I went through was wrong. And sometimes that was the truth. But most of the time, people are telling you from their experience, or they're telling you the facts of it all. But either way, they can never take away your experience. So don't worry about it. We have so much going on a daily basis. We can't be always constantly worried about everybody else and what everybody else got going on. We just can't. It's quite unhealthy. Quite unhealthy. I'm different. And sometimes things don't change. Sometimes people don't change. Sometimes environments don't change. But this right here, right? This stuffed toy that I've had since I was a child, it hasn't changed. But it hasn't lost its love. You know, my love for it hasn't lost it. It hasn't lost its sentimental value. It hasn't lost it. Some things may never change. And they don't need to. But there are some things that no matter how you flip it, turn it, shake it, turn it around and upside down and all the stuff like that, it will never make sense in your life anymore because it doesn't resonate with who you are. And that can be people, that could be places, it could be anything. You're different now. And that's not a bad thing. Don't look at it like it's a bad thing. You've grown. You've changed into something that will always be beautiful. There will be people in your life who will always look at you like that little seed that was planted in the ground, that always needed water, that needed the sun and needed other roots to help build it up. They will always see you that way, regardless of how tall, how big your leaves grow and how wide your roots spread. They will always see you as that little seed, that little sprout in the ground. Be okay with that. Be okay with people saying you're not different, you're the same. And declaring that, you know what? I am different. And I will never be the same. So my homework and my challenge is finding a way to be okay with how much I intake and should I intake it. Right now, I don't know. I love these people. I care about them. But love isn't always enough. And that sounds crazy, but that's the truth. Loving people is not always enough to be in a space with them. An unhealthy space. It's not enough. You can love people from a distance. And it's up to you to decide how much you're willing to do and how much you're willing to lose to keep it or maintain it. Everything is a transfer of something, especially energy. It doesn't just go away. It either changes into something else or is placed in something else. But anyway, let's close this podcast out. This right here is, I love the batch load podcast, but then, I already have some that's already being put out. So now it's like, this one won't come out until, I don't even know when. It got a couple weeks, but I'm grateful. I was looking around. Please, when you're doing something like this, always make sure you have the equipment that you need. I was mixing one cord, the XLR cord, however you say it. And I couldn't use my Vocaster audio interface. So I had to find a way to make it work. And luckily it worked. And I'm so glad it did, because this podcast episode has projected me into a place of, now I know what I need to do now. So I'm thankful for this experience. I'm thankful for this platform, and it'll always be free Palestine, free Congo, free Sudan, free anybody who is put in a place where oppressors are oppressing them. Okay. And I'm going to say it. Hey, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. Okay. But continue to spread love. Continue to look at these moments and these spaces as places of growth and healing and learning, and not from places of my experience is everybody else's experience. Let's stop doing that. Like I say at the end of every podcast episode, I give thanks to the utmost, to the highest power. I don't say God anymore. I believe in God, don't get me wrong, but I believe that God is placed in not just somewhere high above looking at us, but in each and every one of us. I believe God is in our hearts, in our souls, in our minds. So I got to find something else to say. I mean, I still give power to the utmost, to God, but again, I'm different. I'm different. Yeah, I'm different. I'm different. Yeah, I'm different. I'm thankful for my friends and my family. I am truly, truly grateful. This is the Realest Way Podcast. Out. You ate that. You ate that. What can I say? What can I say?